You open your banking app, your savings account earns you 0.4% interest. Your friend just told you about an account that earns 3.75%. You do the math. On $10,000, that's the difference between $40 a year and $375 a year. You feel excitement and a sense of betrayal. Excitement because free money is always nice, but you feel betrayed that no one bothered to tell you about this sooner. So you decide to compare 5 different high-yield savings accounts, all of which promise to earn you 3.75% interest. They all seem the same, except one of them has a slightly different fine print that ultimately makes it the best option. Here's what you should know about the other 4. The first account advertises a 3.75% introductory rate, which lasts for 90 days. After that, the rate drops to 0.5% unless you maintain a balance of $25,000. The introductory rate is meant to attract customers, but most people won't notice the fine print that says the rate is only introductory. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler spent his career studying the gap between what companies present to you and what you ultimately end up with. Thaler found that people are particularly susceptible to anchoring, meaning that they fixate on the first number they see and don't update their thinking as they should when they see additional information. In the case of savings accounts, the anchoring effect is particularly powerful because companies know that most people will be satisfied with a teaser rate, even if it's significantly lower than the rate they'll be charged later. The second account doesn't have an introductory rate. It simply offers a guaranteed 3.75% interest with no minimum balance. Seems great, right? Wrong. This account charges you $12 a month in maintenance fees unless you set up a direct deposit of at least $500. If you're using this account as a secondary savings account, the $12 will eat away at your savings, reducing your yield by almost 3%. Banks love to use fee framing because it makes them appear much less expensive than they actually are. In reality, $12 a month is almost 300% of the interest you'd earn on a $5,000 balance, but most people won't realize this until it's too late. Fee framing works because humans are notoriously bad at converting smaller numbers into bigger numbers. You might understand $12 in fees, but you won't understand $12 in fees as a percentage of your savings. The third account seems pretty straightforward. It offers a guaranteed 3.75% interest with no fees and no minimum balance. The interest compounds daily, which means that you earn interest on the interest you've already earned. It might not seem like much, but it adds up. On a $10,000 balance, it'll earn you about $15 or $20 additional dollars a year, compared to an account that compounds monthly. That might not seem like much, but it'll add up because compounding is the most powerful force in finance. Albert Einstein never actually said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, but he did understand its power. In fact, he once compared it to magic, saying that it's the only form of magic that doesn't require any special skills to perform. Compounding is so powerful precisely because it rewards you for doing nothing at all. It's why Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing and Warren Buffett's mentor, always recommended buying stocks with dividends and reinvesting the dividends right back into the stocks. Graham knew that most people would fail at trying to time the market, but he also knew that most people could simply leave their money alone and watch it grow thanks to the power of compounding. The fourth account offers 3.75% on the first $5,000 loss, but only 1% on the rest. This way, the bank can advertise a higher interest rate while still collecting less money on larger balances. It's all about anchoring again, because most people will see the higher number and fail to realize that it only applies to a smaller amount. Anchoring is a cognitive bias that makes us fixate on the first number we see, without considering the context in which it appears. The fifth account is the most surprising one of all, because it's actually the most straightforward. It advertises a 3.75% interest with no fees, no minimum balance, and daily compounding. The only reason it stands out is because it's offered by a smaller online bank, rather than one of the traditional banks. It doesn't have any branches, so it doesn't have to spend as much money on overhead, which allows it to offer better rates. This is an example of structural incentives, because the bank's entire business model is built around keeping customers happy. In fact, structural incentives are everywhere in economics. John Maynard Keynes, one of the most influential economists of the 20th century, argued that the structure of an institution ultimately determines the behavior of its members. In other words, the way things are set up will always influence what people do, even if they don't realize it. This is why banks with physical locations tend to offer lower rates than online banks, simply because they have more overhead to cover. The 3.75% rate is actually the baseline rate across all 5 accounts, because it's the rate that makes them competitive with each other. What makes one account better than the other is the fine print, which is ultimately designed to keep customers from switching to a different bank. That's why the first account advertises a higher introductory rate, because it knows that most people won't stay for more than 90 days. Similarly, the second account charges higher maintenance fees, because most people won't be able or willing to set up direct deposits. The third account compounds interest daily, because most people will fail to realize that daily compounding is better than monthly compounding. The fourth account advertises a higher interest rate on smaller balances, because most people will fail to understand that the rate drops dramatically on larger balances. And the fifth account doesn't have any of these issues, because it's much more transparent than the rest. The next time you see a savings account with an introductory rate, keep in mind that the rate is only introductory. The same goes for maintenance fees and daily compounding. The lesson of the 5 accounts is that most financial products are designed to keep you from getting the best value, simply by burying important information in the fine print. The next time you look at a credit card offer, keep in mind that the introductory APR is probably much higher than the APR you'll be charged later. The same goes for mortgages, loans, and even your paycheck, because the percentage increase is always much more impressive than the actual dollar amount. The next time you see a savings account with an introductory rate, keep in mind that the rate is only introductory. The same goes for maintenance fees and daily compounding. The lesson of the 5 accounts is that most financial products are designed to keep you from getting the best value, simply by burying important information in the fine print. The next time you look at a credit card offer, keep in mind that the introductory APR is probably much higher than the APR you'll be charged later. The same goes for mortgages, loans, and even your paycheck, because the percentage increase is always much more impressive than the actual dollar amount.